for question and answer. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to give you a quick update. We're just going to kind of load in the attendees here. I see some names coming in, so it may take us a minute or two to get started, but everybody get comfortable. We will get started in just a few minutes. I don't know, just so everybody knows, we'll go through kind of the meeting format and how this works best, but obviously you can see us, we don't see you. So I'll again get us started. I see a handful of people that are already in. I'll give it a few more minutes to see if we're going to have more people. And Rebecca, I see that you are in there. I just wanted to thank you for helping us schedule this meeting. So thank you very much, Rebecca, for working with your community and sharing the invite and getting that information and frankly requesting the meeting as well. I'll give it one more minute and then we'll jump in. Jasper, can you just confirm to me, you can chat me if the chat is disabled for the panel or for the attendees, or we're just going to use the question and answer format, I presume. Got it. Okay, folks, I'm going to get started. Good evening. My name is Marcus Pockner, and I want to thank you all very much for joining us tonight. I do appreciate your time this evening and learning more about the proposed development across the street from all of you. Again, I want to say a special thanks to Rebecca for getting this organized. Folks, I've seen a couple people come in and out, so I hope everybody's doing fine. If you are not hearing us okay, or the picture is not working, maybe just use that Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and let us know if you're not hearing it. I've seen a number of attendees come in and out, so just let me know if there's any problems on the connection. So folks, again, Marcus Pockner, we're here to talk about the Arcadia project. This is a kind of a recap of a meeting that we have given on June 29th. So you see this heading here, but we wanted to share a lot of information with you. It'd probably take about 20 minutes to run through these slides, and then we have a whole team here for Q&A. So I just want to kind of set the stage with that. We'll go to that. Jasper, can you go to the next slide, please? What we're going to go through tonight, folks, and again, some of you may have joined us in some of these neighborhood meetings, so these images may look familiar. We're going to go through an agenda. I'll talk a little bit about kind of our meeting participants and team introductions. Then we'll really go background information, what we've heard from all of you to really shape this plan, talk about the community overview, walk through the site plan, and then probably most importantly, trying to transition to the Q&A. We have a small enough group tonight that I'm sure we can probably go to just kind of a live Q&A at the end. And we're certainly willing to promote you so we can hear directly from you as well. Next slide. Until then, until we get to that, if you have a question that comes up while we're giving the presentation here, just use that Q&A button at the bottom of the screen there and write your question at any point. It does help us track the question, so we're able to do that. So we'd appreciate that. Next slide, please. Here's a number of the team members that are with us tonight, the developers, DHI communities. So we'll come back and talk a little bit more on them in detail. My company, we're joined by Norris Design. We have two planners here from Norris Design that are going to walk through the presentation as well, or help me through the presentation. And then we did bring our engineers tonight to also be able to answer any questions you had directly about the site plan. Next slide, please. This does talk a little bit about D.R. Horton. I think that is just a little background. What I want to do tonight is really not focus on the developer. We are here to learn from all of you, to listen to all of you. I think D.R. Horton is an incredibly reputable company. It's a very well-known national builder with a terrific reputation. So just know that you're working with a very experienced development team and developer, and somebody that really wants to invest and bring a very high quality product to the neighborhood. Next slide, please. This is the site that we are talking about. It's the outline of the entire parcel. It's really an important, I think all of you know the site very well, immediately across the street from it. And I think just kind of shows the outline of how this abuts your neighborhood just to the north of you. We go all the way from Clinton to Alton Street as well. Next slide, please. And Bonnie, this is a silly thing that has happened, but I have lost audio on my side. So do you mind jumping in and going through the slides here until I get that back? So I'm sorry, I've lost all video somehow on my computer. So folks, I'm so sorry. You're probably able to see me, but I actually can't see the screen. So I'm making up whatever the slide would be. So Bonnie, do you mind jumping in for a minute while I get this fixed?
You're literally working blind.
Okay, there we go. I am completely blind. So go right ahead.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Bonnie Nijelk. I'm a principal at Norris Design, and we are working on the landscape architecture and planning for this project. It's so nice to have so many of you with us tonight. Jumping in where Marcus left off, this slide here shows the county comprehensive plan. So kind of circled in this square, this red square. This property is part of the 4 square mile sub area plan, which helps provide guidance on what the county envisions for this area and this property. Jasper, if you could go to the next slide. So zooming in on this, this slide walks through some of the details of that sub-area plan. So this property is highlighted here in the white outline, and the property is identified as multifamily. You can see there's some single family to the north at 1 to 6 views per acre, and then the balance to the west, the south, and the east are all designated as that multifamily designation. Next slide. And then here's a little bit more information on what that all means. So the multifamily designation includes primary uses such as apartments and condominiums, as well as open space and recreation facilities for residents. You can also have some secondary uses to the multifamily, so neighborhood commercial centers, additional parks and recreation, schools, or places of worship. And then this sub-area plan further explains the density for this property, noting a density of about 13 to 25 units per gross acre. And then it's focused on that higher density along Arterial and Collector Streets, which we are along Collector Streets. Next slide. Wanted to also walk through the existing zoning for the property. So the property is RA-PUD. Again, the property is outlined here in black. And that PUD is specifically allowing the religious use that's on the site today. Next slide. So in order to develop this property and make it in compliance with the sub-area plan, we need to rezone the property to allow additional uses consistent with that multifamily designation. So the county has a process called a PUD, which is defined with a GDP, lots of acronyms here, which is a general development plan. So this plan provides an overall framework for how the property could develop. So we've been working with county staff, have worked with a handful of residents in the area over the last few months, working through what this framework could look like. And, some consistent feedback that we heard was having a public park and, working with county staff was really focused on putting it on the north end of the overall community to transition to those lower density uses to the north, and also keep that public park off the higher traffic Florida Avenue, just to provide additional amenity space and a little bit more safety for people using it. You can go to the next slide. From there, we have 2 kind of bubbles on the eastern end of the property. So these 2 bubbles of land would be set for sale paired homes. Another word for paired homes would be duplexes. So those would be 2 units within 1 building, and they would be built by a home builder who would sell each of those units to future residents. So again, wanting to kind of transition the density, having the lower density paired homes further north towards the existing lower density, and then increasing in density as we go south. Next slide. And so you can see here that southwest corner is where that increased density is. So that piece would be reserved for multifamily apartments where we have existing, very similar in context, multifamily both to the west and the south. So trying to put similar uses and similar building forms adjacent to each other.
I am back to Bonnie, but stay with me here. I just wanted to join in and make a comment here. You all know your neighborhood very well at Copperstone. You can see it kind of immediately south of this site. One thing I do want to note that we're kind of trying to match, as Bonnie just said, really our neighbors. One thing that I thought was very important for adjoining your neighborhood is actually to keep the paired homes across that. You traditionally line up right with the church building today. So we thought that was an important kind of continued element there. We wanted to see that residential element along Clinton, that more single kind of family duplex neighborhood there. So we thought that was a great buffer and transition to all of you. So again, then we start that multifamily kind of west of your driveway or kind of a shared roadway. So we can go to that. So I just wanted to kind of show this out in your view so you can kind of understand it. I know that one building is kind of aligned on a kind of a northwest look there, but it's important to kind of understand what we're proposing along that Florida edge as well. Go ahead, Jasper. I may have, Bonnie and I will probably go back and forth here. This is just what Bonnie talked about. We just kind of went through the bubble form. This actually shows it as proposed, what we're doing here. So 345 multifamily homes being proposed there on kind of the west side of the site. And then 168 of the paired homes. The paired homes, again, immediately north of you all for a total of 513 homes. That is based on or equates to 16 dwelling units per acre. That's the density. And then that very important kind of public park for all of you. One other thing I do want to say is that, you know, there must be, and we will have at least 35% total open space across this site. So don't think that the park is the only open space. There's a lot of internal open space as well. And really those street transitions and those transitions to all of our neighbors. One other thing I do want to point out, that telecommunications tower that we show over on Alton. Again, this is on site today. Many of you may actually see it because it's immediately north of you on the church. It's embedded into the church building, but we have to keep that somewhere on site. Frankly, we'd love your feedback on where you think that should go. This is our idea. Maybe we build it into some kind of a monumentation sign or something like that, but that's what we're proposing right now. Next slide, please. This just kind of shows the more detail on the parking. I think that was something that specifically your neighborhood had asked about, if there was going to be overflow parking or any parking concerns. So again, multifamily here, this is 240 tuck under parking. So parking, but kind of tucks under the building itself. And then there would also be 366 surface parking. So you add the on-street parking, the internal on-street parking, nothing on Alton or Florida. That's the 82 on street. So we get 688 total parking spaces. So we are exceeding the requirement there from the county for parking. And again, another question that you all had asked is what's the height here? So again, the multifamily is a 50-foot maximum height. And then we could go to 60 feet on the telecommunication tower. Next slide. This does show that multifamily, and again, this is along Florida. That first image up on your left there, you see kind of the leasing center, the clubhouse. You see there, we're proposing probably only a one-story kind of architectural elements there. And then the bottom story, you'll see that kind of more typical three-story multifamily that we're proposing on the site. As you know, or as I just noted, 50 feet is the maximum height, but that's the top of the roof point. So these are a traditional three-story multifamily buildings, very similar to your own buildings from a height perspective of what we're proposing. Next slide. I can do this. This just shows a little bit more about the parking immediately north of you on the duplex paired home community. Just to be clear on that, so they're kind of alley loaded. Of course, you could come, you know, there's the Clinton Street frontage as well, but there are 336 garage parking and then 336 driveways. So 2 garage spots per unit and then 2 spots on the driveway. So we really give you basically 4 spots. It's very ample parking there. We did not count any of the additional on-street parking. We didn't want to double count that. This height, so immediately across from you, that's a max again of 35 feet. But again, that's top of roof line. Bonnie can probably tell me, I mean, Bonnie, we don't have architecture yet, or we don't know for sure. We'll show a few images here, but that's kind of top of height, right? These are probably more 1.5 story, 2-story units.
Yeah, that's correct. They're all two-story homes, and I believe maybe the next slide we have some conceptual. Yep, there it is. Two-story homes.
Great. So two-story homes, and folks, we worked with our architect team to kind of look at the existing neighborhood character. You know the neighborhood character. This is kind of our early thoughts on how we would design and how these paired homes would look. So again, maybe in sometime, Bonnie, we might look at kind of a side profile of what people may see across Florida. So I don't know if we can show that tonight, but we will try to find that where we can share this with this community as well. Next slide. Bonnie, you might explain this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is just diving into a little bit more detail on those paired homes. So this is a little bit more technical information, but I'll try to walk through it. So this shows each of the duplex buildings. So just kind of focusing on the far west or left one. So that is one building. You can see that it's 2 units within that one building. On the bottom end of that, you can see the 2-car garage. That's those little rectangles. Yep, exactly. So 2-car garage within each of these units. Just below that, you can see the 18-foot driveway. So again, you have the ability to put 4 cars within that lot for parking purposes. And then just to the right of that, you can see that little 5. So we have a 5-foot side setback when it's internal to the block. And then on the far left, we have a 13-foot corner setback. So the homes that are on a street or alley edge have just a little bit more space, just to again provide a little more safety against the vehicular traffic. And then at the very front, you can see there's this 10-foot dimension and the 14-foot dimension. So we have a minimum front setback of 10 feet. Some of those homes are going to be pushed back a little bit further, but they all have porches or patios in the front. So a little bit of green space in front, a nice patio to really engage with the street and create a friendly streetscape environment. So all those homes with porches, space, the sidewalk, face the public street, that's the place where people will be focused on walking, things like that. So each lot is approximately 2,250 square feet that one unit sits on.
Great. Next slide. This shows kind of, Bonnie, just more of the community overview. I think this is really on to the public park. So Patrick, are you still with us? Do you want to tell us a little bit about the park, or do you want me to walk through?
Sure. No, I can walk through it. This is very much conceptual in nature at this point. We will be working with the county to do much more public outreach to really define what sort of amenities and features we'll have in this park. But we do anticipate kind of a looped walking trail system, flexible open space, likely a playground, perhaps some sport courts, maybe a dog run area. But again, we're gonna be doing a lot more community outreach in conjunction with the county, and we will certainly fine tune that layout and programming as we move forward. But it's about a 5-acre piece of land, and I think will be a very nice buffer and asset to the community.
Excellent. This question, I was just looking at a couple of questions that have come in, and thank you all for sending those in or writing those at the bottom of the screen there. This is about some of those amenities, right, and neighborhood connections. One thing I just wanted to kind of focus on, because we're talking to all of you just south of this, you see the neighborhood connection, the primary one there on Clinton Street and Alton Street. We think of those as the neighborhood, but then you see kind of the pocket parks that are there. But you also see the access points that we have into the neighborhood, along Florida. So this was a specific question that somebody just asked. So I wanted to show you kind of those entry points as they're shown out. One thing that's really important here is the orange color shows the 5-foot walks that really kind of net this back into the fabric of the community and connect that so you all have access and direct connection to the park as well. And then on the west side of the site, we show an 8-foot kind of meandering trail there, a walk there that would make that connection to the park as well. Next slide. This shows, right, kind of goes through again the parkway. Anything else we need to or the park itself, anything else we need to focus on here, Patrick?
I don't think so, but there were some connections about access and egress with this whole development. And maybe the previous slide actually shows that a little bit better.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah. So these are all public streets coming through. So there will be access on Clinton, Florida, Alton, and then kind of mid-block along Florida as well. So those are all, I believe, full movement intersections. And I guess there's some questions about the traffic study as well here. I don't know, Mike, if you want to jump in on that.
Let me, maybe Patrick, we'll finish this one up and then we'll come back to that traffic study question.
Okay.
So this one, Jasper, just jump back for one more second on that slide. This again just shows kind of that the community overview. You see a little bit more of the northern part of the site and kind of the connection there. That the site plan, how do you make these connections for the public park? Again, we'd love your feedback. You see that we show a trail connection there on Clinton, one then meandering through the site. As Patrick said, this is completely conceptual, right? And we do actually think now that we're going to be involved in helping to plan this park, but we want to work with all of you. So I'd love to hear how you all best can connect to this park. Next slide, please. This is just it's got a lot of information here. I just kind of want to give you all kind of the process that we're going through right now. Bonnie mentioned the general development plan and the specific development plan. As you see noted on those, we have submitted both of those documents. What we will continue to do is just what we're doing right now. We want to have continued discussion with all of you. And now that we've made those submittals to the county, we will start getting feedback from them and all the referral agencies. And then we will start changing our plans, things that we learn from all of you, ways to improve the site plan, things that we hear from the city or the county and all their referral agencies will make those. So in the future, it kind of goes through that process. There will certainly be eventual planning commission presentations and to the Board of County Commissioners, but that is something that we will have plenty of notice. We'll of course notify all of you, but that's many months into the future and not yet scheduled. Next slide. I think this just shows some of the meetings. We actually met with Alton Park earlier this week on Monday, meeting with you all tonight. We're going back to 4 Square Mile, the group there in August, and we're meeting with the 9300 folks just to your west the first week of August as well. That's my email and my phone number. I'm happy to meet with any of you individually or take a call, whatever you'd like to do. If you'd like me to go through this, I also will just say, to kind of get it out of the way, we are recording this and we are happy to share it with your folks. So anything that you would like to do, if you have some people that weren't able to attend this meeting, we're happy for you all to share it internally with your community as well. So with that, I think that kind of concludes our formal presentation. Again, we're really here to kind of learn and hear from all of you. There are a few questions that are already loaded in. So I would say to our team, maybe if you don't mind, let's just run through those questions. And then Rebecca or anyone, if anybody wants to kind of say they'd like to ask the question or raise their hand, and we can promote you and kind of hear from you live as well. So I'll go through these first 10 questions. So the multifamily will be apartments, not condos, just confirmed. That is correct. These are being proposed as a multifamily residential development for rent, not condo development. Let's see, the next one, we kind of covered a little bit, Patrick, but where will the entrances to the development be located for each of the sub-development, park, paired homes, and multifamily? I mean, Patrick, we think of it, and Bonnie, like holistically, right? But you do obviously have entrances to all the kind of sub parts of the development.
Yeah, we're kind of thinking of it as an extension of the grid system. So it's an interconnected development.
Absolutely. So you see folks here, kind of, this is probably a better image. I know you weren't there. We weren't there yet when you asked this question. So it shows kind of that connection. I think we're really curious about some of the parkway connections too. Again, just kind of give us your thoughts on that. But here's the roadway connections. Again, somewhat lines up with your entrance on the south side of Florida there. I'm sure that's something that the county, will watch that as well and kind of monitor that discussion. Let's see, next question is, what is the egress to the multifamily and the paired homes along East Florida property line? So I think we're showing that clearly now, and you can kind of see how you can get into that. I will say that Clinton and Alton Street, of course, you're able to make all 4 movements there, right? You can go east or west turning on to Florida. The 2 that are kind of mid-block or between those are just right in, right? Right in, right out. Is that what we're expecting, Patrick, or are those full movement there?
All right, do you want to chime in on that?
This is Mike Kibbe with HKS, the traffic engineer. And we're proposing to have 3/4 movement access for our site. The one at Beeler, which is the one correct right there. That will be a 3/4 access, which means left turns into the site and right turns out and into the site on our side. The other side of Beeler right now is a full movement access where you can turn left onto Beeler or off of Beeler onto Florida, or right in to Beeler and right out from Beeler onto Florida. So that's that site. Our other site, that the other access where the cursor is right now, is proposed to be a right turn only access. Right in, right out.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification. We'll probably come back to that. That's a good clarification for the community. What is the timeline for the traffic study completion? So Mike, actually, if you can kind of say that's actually been submitted. It's part of the SDP process. So just so everybody understands the specific development plan. Now that we know what we're proposing, what the development plan is, we then develop that traffic study and we have submitted that to the county. Is that correct? Then that's kind of an iterative. We'll get feedback, right, Mike, from the county and then make the necessary improvements that they want to see made.
That's correct. Once they do their initial review, we'll get comments back from the county. And those comments basically entail if they have any questions or comments or concerns about how we're planning to mitigate any of our traffic impacts or any of our planned improvements to the external or internal roadway system to the site. That's what will come next. And then we will resubmit that for their review and a final approval.
Terrific. Great. Thank you. Tara asks, have we determined the price points yet for the paired homes and the rent index for the multifamily apartments? So Tyler, maybe if you want to take a stab at that question.
Yeah, I can. So I think the paired homes are not totally determined yet. Obviously that kind of fluctuates with the market, but right now I think they're targeting plus or minus 500,000 for the homes. The apartments on average rent for about 1720, I think is our average. They're 900 square feet. So we have studios, 1s, 2s, and 3s. So our studios probably rent for 13 or 1400, and then the 3s go for 22 to 2300. So that's the range. And then jumping forward, I know there was a question. These are not. These are all market rate units, so there's no low income restrictions.
Great, thank you. There is a question, have we had any thought of including a fenced dog park area? So Bonnie or Patrick, I don't know if that would be more in the parkland or anything on site, but have we talked about including a dog park area?
Yeah, that's come up in preliminary discussions with the county on the park design, and it is something that we're considering. Again, community feedback will help drive that.
Okay, great. So I might just, Rebecca, I know you asked that question or got it from your community. You know, we would love to hear your thoughts on that. You asked if there's, has there been thought of including? I assume that means you would like to see one there, but maybe just clarify if that's something that you all would support or would like to see included. Sarah asks, are there plans to add boutique shops or restaurants to make the neighborhood more walkable and similar to a higher end neighborhood such as the Highlands? We're not proposing any on this site. And Bonnie, maybe if you could talk a little bit about the zoning and kind of the underlying comp plan. That's probably a little more complicated, right? Kind of going around that, but maybe just kind of how we're approaching any commercial at the site.
Yeah, the comp plan focuses on multifamily as the primary use. There's a consideration commercial could be allowed as a secondary use. But like you said, Marcus, the plan for this whole site is just residential uses. I think just working with retail, you really want to have it be located adjacent to other retail areas. They're very synergistic with each other, especially in this COVID world we're working through right now. Having retailers be adjacent to each other so that people can, utilize the coffee shop and, the store instead of driving between those different places. So we're focused on just the residential component, which is consistent with the primary uses of the comp plan.
Great. Next question was, could you send the slides to our HOA? I'm more than happy to do so. Sarah, we're happy to share this information and any of the questions. So we will do so. What we can do as well as, I think Jasper turns this into a YouTube video, so we can share that link and probably a link to the slides. Next question is a comment more. I really like the idea of the winding path down the west side of the property to connect the park to Florida Avenue. Thank you. We think that's a good amenity. I mean, Bonnie, do you mind just kind of what that setback is there? So we show that winding path. So there's additional landscaping, obviously, kind of a landscaping buffer, and then we get to that sidewalk, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Let me see if I have a rough dimension of that. It looks like it's about just under 40 feet from the eastern edge of the Alton Street right-of-way improvements to that first building. So plenty of room for nice landscaping and a great walk to really provide that connection from Florida out to the park.
And again, folks, I think that was a balance, just so you know, is kind of figuring out that direct connection, this kind of meandering trail there. I realize that's kind of the other edge from where your development is down to Alton. But I think, again, we thought that residential, the paired homes there on Clinton, was really a great neighbor immediately north of you all. So it was kind of balancing that site in some ways. Next question was, if the county recommends traffic lights be installed at any of the intersections, will the development company be completing that, or will the county do that? So it's a completely fair question. Mike, maybe you can address that. I don't think we anticipate whatsoever that the county, or maybe we will. What will the county tell us about traffic lights?
Well, the county really doesn't want to introduce any more traffic signals on Florida. We've done a traffic signal warrant analysis to see if they would be warranted either at the Beeler Street access point or the other access point there that's across from the 9300 East Florida Avenue development. Neither one of those are looking like that they would warrant a traffic signal at this time. And therefore, that's one of the reasons that we're looking at doing the 3/4 movement access into the site.
I guess it's, and thanks, Mike. I guess it's fair, though, the kind of second part of the question, like maybe it's not traffic signals, right, or traffic lights, but if the county comes back and says, we want you to make these traffic mitigation, install these, whatever that may be, that is something that then we're responsible for, right? So again, we'll work with the county, kind of what they tell us to install, we would be responsible for those improvements.
Yes, that's correct. We would be responsible for doing that work.
Great, very good, thank you. So folks, I just wanted to kind of work through those questions there. I think that's the only questions we had. But I think I would love to hear more, kind of from you all. If you have additional questions, or if anybody wants to, at the bottom of the screen, use their raise hand function and kind of go through that. I'm happy to allow you, if anybody would like to make a statement or kind of ask us any questions or provide written questions. So Rebecca or anybody, feel free, if you want to raise your hand, I'm happy to call on you and see if you have any additional questions. And I'll give you a minute to think about that, or we don't have to. You certainly don't have to. So that's great. Let me see here. Maybe I had another question come in or two. Okay. We are asking them, are they 2 or 3 bedroom units? We kind of have both proposed, right? But could somebody give the breakdown maybe on kind of what we're thinking on the unit layout?
This is for the apartments?
Actually, nope. The second question came in and clarified that. The ones that are for sale. So this would be the paired homes. Are those 2 or 3 bedroom?
I believe they're 3 and maybe 4-bedroom units, but I'm not sure. I'd have to check on that with the home building group who's not on.
I think you're
Sarah,
right, Tanner.
That's right. Okay. Sarah, we're going to leave it that we think those are at least 3-bedroom homes each side. So we're going to leave it for that.
I know they're 3 bedrooms. I don't know if they're 4s. So
Okay, great. So at least 3-bedroom homes. And we'll let everyone know if there's anything different information. The comment then came in that seems, honestly, Tyler, like a low price for the 3 to 4 bedrooms or 3-bedroom homes.
yeah.
We don't mind that comment, but go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think the price, we still need to determine that. There's a lot that can change between now and when those get built. So plus or minus 500,000, would we love to get more than that? Of course. So yeah.
It'll also vary, Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong, on the finishes that people choose. Like there's a base package, and then, if you have a different type of countertop or, what those add-ons might be, that could affect that price quite a bit too.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's a pretty big fluctuation on finishes and what people choose and stuff like that. So you're correct.
Jasper, why don't you go ahead and promote Rebecca, if you may. I see your hand raised, Rebecca, so if you'll unmute yourself, I think you've been added as a panelist.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you very much for taking the time to do this presentation for us this evening. I really appreciate your time. And yeah, if Jasper has my email, and if you'd like to send these slides over, we'll be happy to distribute them out to all of our homeowners.
Yeah, that would be great. We again, thank you, Rebecca, for helping us on this. I do want to say to folks, there was a number of people that actually came in after we kind of got started. So I hope everybody was able to see most of the presentation. The one thing I just want to stress to all of you is that, we want to be your neighbors. We want to be great neighbors. This development team that you've been talking to tonight, or we've been talking, all of us have worked on a lot of projects in this area. We know this area very, very well, and frankly, I've lived very close to this site for a long time. So we want to be good neighbors, and I think what we're proposing here really is, an additive to the neighborhood. We love that paired home function, really, and kind of how it matches up to your neighborhood. And we think that inclusion of the park is really an important element. So we hope you agree with us. We'd love, any other questions or concerns. We have heard about traffic concerns from folks, and I think that's really important that traffic study, we get that initial meeting information back from the county. Again, we feel like we're certainly meeting the requirements and going through that, but we want to hear that. So just with that, I just want to say again, thank you. I'll do a quick question. One last question came in here. Approximately when do you anticipate breaking ground and starting demo? Bonnie, do you know kind of the overall kind of best guess timeline?
Let me just pull up one thing real quick. I believe we have us getting through, these are just projections, of course. It'll be subject to how long the county review timeframes take and how long it takes to work through those details. But we're guessing that we are going to public hearing on these first steps, the general development plan and the specific development plan, late this year or early next year. And then we still need to do that third step. We talked about this administrative site plan. So that is kind of refining it to another level of detail. So we'll probably submit that early next year. And that will probably take, 6 or 7 months to get through that. So hopefully late summer next year, we can start doing site work.
Great. So Rebecca, that gives you an overall best case scenario, right, from a timing standpoint, is about a year from now, basically, or late summer next year, maybe the initial construction and demolition would begin. So that's great. I am going to give everybody one last chance here. If they have any open questions, we're happy to answer them. So fire them in if you've got them. All right, that sounds great. Well, I want to thank everybody very much for attending. Thank you for all your input. Folks, we really do look forward to these discussions, and we're happy to follow up. So Rebecca will send this out, as we said. We provided my information in the chat, so you can all look at the chat function, and you have my email and phone number. So if you have any additional questions or want to call me back, please please do so. Call me directly. That's my office line. So on behalf of the entire team, I do want to say thank you and go have a great evening. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.